Hi, everyone. My name is Jason Klein. I'm the director of P20 Initiatives at Northern Illinois University, and we're back with another episode of Career Pathways Virtual Trailheads. If you haven't caught our episodes, they're all available on our blog. That address will be at the end of this video, and they're all on our YouTube channel. So today we're real excited to bring you another career pathway, this in the human and public services pathway. We've got an attorney with us today, and I'm going to turn it over to Arthur to let him introduce himself. Arthur, tell us about yourself.
My name is Arthur Mingo. I graduated from Southern Illinois University School of Law. I graduated in the year 2014. I passed the bar in November of 2014. The bar is a 3-month period after graduation. And I live in Calumet City, which is a south suburb of Chicago, and I work as a lawyer.
So tell us about there's all kinds of different lawyers, and some of the students watching this may not even know that. They may think all lawyers do everything from go to trial in big corporate cases to help people buy a home or write a last will and testament. Tell us about the kind of law you practice and maybe a little bit about how different lawyers focus on different things.
Okay, no problem. The best way to think about what a lawyer does is to think about doctors. And I think a lot of people understand that not all doctors do all things. If you've watched ER or Grey's Anatomy, you know there are certain doctors that do certain things. They do that one thing very well. And then there are other doctors, like your general practitioner, the doctor you may go to for your yearly checkup, who do a little bit of everything. They're not experts in one field, but they're more of a jack of trades of everything. And that's how lawyers operate. So I myself am a small jack of trades. I have a preference for contract, and that is either I will write the contract between my client and another client. We're trying to buy something, or someone's trying to buy something from us, or it will be contract disputes. So a contract I have written, or that was written by a previous party, and there's a dispute. The easiest way to think of a contract dispute is, hey, you were supposed to sell me blue widgets, and I opened up the box. The box inside, those are green widgets. And then you might say, well, for us, that is considered blue. My client may say, no, for us, that's considered green. And we will deal with that issue. I tend not to take my cases to trial, just because I'm very much an economic, forward-looking lawyer. Some lawyers like to take their cases to trial, and there's nothing wrong with that. Those are litigators, and I believe there's a place to litigate. But at the same time, you have to ask yourself, how much money are you willing to spend to prove that you're right? So I do those. I sort of run my own firm. I'm put my foot out there, so I'm taking a little bit of all cases, and that's the reason why I said that contract work is really what I like to do, but I'm a small jack of all trades. So I've done cases including domestic issues, child payments, last will and testaments, and other some small criminal cases. When you hang your own shingle or you start your own law firm, you have to take what business you can just to keep everything moving forward. And then once you have enough customer base, you can start to say, hey, you know what? Myself, my firm, we're really going to focus on one area, and you slowly start to narrow in, going from more of a general practice lawyer or doctor to a more focused, specialized practitioner.
Cool. So let's try and come back to that whole idea of starting your own law firm in a minute. But first, let's go back a little bit earlier in your life and talk about your pathway through school. So you went to high school, you had to go to college to get a 4-year degree and a bachelor's degree, and then you go to law school from there. Can you just walk students through what that's like? Because I'm not sure everybody knows about exactly what that process looks like to be an attorney. And then let's finish up by talking about that last hurdle, which is passing the bar.
Sure, not a problem. 49 out of the 50 states require you to have a bachelor's degree in order to, all states require you to have a bachelor's degree to go to law school. I got my bachelor's from the University of Illinois Springfield, in Springfield, Illinois. My bachelor's was in political science, and I love political science so much, being in Springfield, Illinois. And for those of you all who may not know, Springfield is our state capital, and our state capital is a very active state capital. Some state capitals are very sleepy. People come in, they do their job, and they leave. Whereas Springfield is the exact opposite. People are there day in, day out, year in, year out, regardless if the General Assembly, which is our legislature, is present or not. And so there's a lot of political activity that happens in Springfield year round. Because of that, I decided to stay at UIS and get my master's. And so that is the more non-traditional aspect of my educational career, because a lot of people will go to high school, go to undergrad, and then go to law school. Once I got my master's degree in political science, you have to take a test known as the LSAT. And I'll be honest, I do not know what the LSAT stands for, but it is the test that you need in order to get into law school. It consists of 4 different parts, and so you study for that, and then that score, coupled with your GPA, coupled with your essays, is the key that you need to get into various schools.
And your GPA being your college GPA, not your high school GPA.
Yes.
Correct. Okay, great.
I apologize.
That's okay.
And with that, you start applying to different schools. And I applied to essentially, let me count them off. I applied to Southern Illinois, obviously, because I went there. I applied to Loyola. I applied to DePaul. I applied to John Marshall. And Phil and Clark Kent. I applied to all 5, and I got into all 5. Loyola and DePaul waitlisted me, and then after I had accepted SIU, I found out that I got in, but I did not want to change my mind on that one. Once you get accepted to law schools, you have to start thinking about how you're going to pay for this. If you're fortunate enough where your family can write you a check, well, then that's a conversation that is over in less than 5 minutes. If the situation where you yourself have to get a loan or you have to have your family co-sign, you have to start asking yourself, okay, at the end of the day, functionally speaking, I need a car to drive me from the beginning of law school to the end of law school. Now, do I want to drive, a Chevy, or do I want to drive a Maserati? At the end of the day, they're still going to get me to the exact same place. The reason I picked SIU was that SIU was the cheapest of all the 5 schools, and then SIU gave me a scholarship on top of that as well. So I don't come from a family where my mom, because I am a child of a single parent, my mother, and my mother could not cut a check just to pay for school. If she could have, I probably would have went to Loyola or DePaul. At the end of the day, law school is about getting you the information and the skills you need to be a lawyer. But at the same time, I'm not going to act as if there is not a prestige factor that goes with your degree. Even though at SIU, the school books that I used were the exact same books by the exact same maker that you would use if you went to Harvard Law, if you went to Clark Kent, even though those are the exact same books, there is, let's be honest, the prestige of you went to Harvard Law as opposed to, oh, you went to SIU, where are they located at? So you have to keep those things in mind. I decided SIU. I went down there. We looked at some apartments, my mother and I, and we picked an apartment, and I signed up for classes. The really interesting difference between law school and undergrad, because the majority of people will go straight from undergrad to law school, is that in undergrad, you're used to your first day being, hi, welcome to the class. These are your books. This is the classroom. I'm the teacher. This is the syllabus. Go read your syllabus, and I'll see you at the next class session. Law school works the exact opposite way. You are given your syllabus before you go to class. You are given your reading list before class. You are supposed to have your books and be ready to do the work of law school on day 1. So there is no welcome to class session. It is, why have you not read yet, Mr. Klein? Why are you here? Once you finish law school, you will graduate with a JD. Your JD is a Juris Doctorate. Now, some people will say that we are doctors, and some will not say we are doctors, because in academia, there are essentially 3 types of doctors. There are your medical doctors, there are your PhD doctors like yourself, Mr. Klein, and then there are the JDs. We poor JDs, we're trying to be a part of the club, but y'all won't let us until you get sued, and then you all let us into the club. Like, come on in. You will get your JD. Your JD does not allow you to be a lawyer. It allows you to sit for the bar. The bar is how you become a lawyer. Now, earlier I talked about how there are 49 states, and then I corrected myself to say there are 50. I believe it is the state of Vermont that you do not have to go to law school to be a lawyer. They do it the old-fashioned way. Essentially, you would clerk with a lawyer for 4 to 5 years. When that lawyer that you are working underneath, because you'll be an apprentice to them, when that lawyer feels that you have learned enough about the law, that you understand what it is to be a lawyer, will sign off on the form, and then you will sit for the bar just like everyone who went to law school sat for the bar. If I remember correctly, one of their Supreme Court justices, she has never went to law school before, but she is a Supreme Court justice for the state of Vermont. When you graduate in May, if you are sort of on like the standard cycle, when you graduate in May, you will have 3 months to prepare yourself to take the bar. There are private companies that will offer test prep. I highly recommend that if you do decide to go to law school, and we'll talk about that later, if you do decide to go to law school, that once you graduate, that you take one of those testing programs and that you take it seriously. It feels like the mid-credits and the end credits of a Marvel movie, because you're like, didn't I just sit through 3 years of law school? Why am I back on the same schedule again? And the reason is that you're learning. Law school is designed to teach you to think like a lawyer. Bar prep is to now give you the laws that you need to know in order to pass the bar. The program I took, I don't want to say the name of it, but the program that I took had a daily calendar of the amount of work that you were supposed to do a day. You were supposed to put in anywhere between 6 to 10 hours of work per day on the weekdays. On the weekends, it was between 4 to 6 hours per day. Your work isn't always writing. It could be flashcards, it could be quizzes, multiple choice, things of that nature. So you prepare yourself for the bar, and if you take the bar here in Chicago and here in Illinois, the bar is given in Chicago. So everyone across the state will come to Chicago, and the next bar session, if you graduate in May, will be the end of July. May, June, July. End of July, beginning of August. You will take the bar. The bar is a 2-day test. Your first day is essays. You will take 8, 16. You'll take about 16 essays. The number fluctuates. Essentially, you'll take 8 essays in the morning. So from 8 a.m. to about 12:30, you'll be doing essays. And then you'll come back for the second half and you'll take more essays. Now, the number of essays may seem daunting, and it is, but it's not as bad as you may assume it to be. And the reason why is that by this time, if you have taken a professional prep test, you have done a fake bar exam at least 2 or 3 times. And so you sort of have a rhythm and a path that works well for you. Once day 1 is finished, you get to go home, rest, relax. I highly recommend that unless you live near the testing area, you get a hotel in the testing area. And even if you do live in the testing area, I still recommend you get a hotel. And the reason why is that, let's say you lived a block or 2 away from it with your family. Your family is going to be very supportive, and that's very good, but you need that time to decompress. And that's not time for you to take out the garbage, to help with the dishes. No, that's your time for yourself. That's when you want to maybe say, hey, you know what? I have a feeling that they're going to really get me on this X, Y, or Z tomorrow. I want to study. I want to prepare. And sometimes family, although they may be well-intentioned, just sort of get in the way. The second day, you'll come back, and it's 200 multiple-choice questions, 100 in the morning and 100 in the afternoon. The essays can cover any topic at law, absolutely anything. The year before I took it, there was a big issue because the state of Illinois asked people about water law. That is not something that is relevant in Illinois. It's relevant out west because of the Rocky River. We have Lake Michigan and the Mississippi River, so we don't fight over water. The multiple choice is 6 defined areas, so you know what the multiple choice will be. So long as you have enough points in both of the multiple choice and the essays portion, come at the end of November, you will receive an email. I almost chipped my tooth finding out that I had passed the bar because I was running down the hallway and my feet were wet and I slid into the wall. I did not check. I went to check my results and I found out that I passed. And then once you pass, you then become a member of the Illinois bar. At that point, there is no case in state court that you are not allowed to participate in. And I want to emphasize state court. That does not translate over to the federal court. For the federal court, you have to practice at state court for so long, fill out some paperwork, get people to say, I know this person's a good person, pay a fee, and then get sworn in.
So let's step back a little bit and just talk more about your day-to-day job here. Thinking about the fact that a lot of the people who watch this might be middle school or high school students, could be some undergrads, students in community colleges or four-year universities who are kind of exploring what they might want to do. What does a typical day or week look like, just in general, in a nutshell?
Well, a week is a better snapshot than a day. So a typical week. So I work two jobs. I do private business, and so for my private business, it is first and foremost, if you decide to become a lawyer, I cannot emphasize enough the one skill that every lawyer needs to have: the ability to return phone calls. It may seem like a really weird thing, but here in Illinois, we have an organization called the ARDC. And the ARDC is where people go to complain to the state of Illinois about their lawyer. My lawyer screwed me over. My lawyer did this. My lawyer did that. And the number one complaint people have is, my lawyer never called me back. And so you want to make sure that you return phone calls. I'm not saying you have to return that call the next day, but generally speaking, try to keep your client up to date. So that's one of the main things that I do. I try to make a point of having an open line to my clients. I have a separate phone just for my clients. I carry with me, I don't want to say all the time, but the majority of the time. So if you call me, I'll answer or I'll get back to you. The next is legal research. Very, very rarely will a fact pattern, let me say that not so lawyerly, very rarely will the same thing happen twice. There will be things like it, but there won't be the exact same thing. And so I spend a lot of my time looking at places where the court has said, we have these circumstances have happened, and we make this decision, but we've had some slightly different circumstances over here happen, and we make this decision. And I try to see, okay, my client's in the middle. So if we have to go to trial, which outcome is going to happen? Because this one is really good for my client, but this one is really bad for my client. And so I have to make that argument in my head of, is our fact pattern a little bit more like this? Are the widgets that I talked about earlier, are they really blue or are they really green? So that's part of it. The other thing is taking questions from people who want to hire me, listening to what they have to talk about for is happening in their particular fact pattern. I have a client. He wants to hire me on. He and his wife got divorced. He moved to Texas. His wife stayed here with their child, and he feels like he's not having enough communication with his child. So it's interesting because he's thinking about moving back here, which would be great for me because I can work with my client one-on-one, but also I'm having to look at, well, what are the responsibilities that she has to her husband or to her ex-husband, and what was their actual agreement? So it's doing research, going to the court, pulling up documents, because sometimes a client may come in and may not know exactly what they need to bring with them. And so you end up giving your clients homework and like, hey, I need you to bring me these things so I can work for you. The other thing that I do, and I'll be really quick because I see what time it is, I'll be real quick, is I do what's known as doc review. And so if you ever see like huge class action cases, those cases have lots of documents from either side. So if Acme Inc. was being sued by the federal government for selling rockets that don't get Wile E. Coyote where they're supposed to go, Acme Inc. is going to, there's a process called discovery where Acme Inc. has to hand over things. Well, before they hand over things, they want to make sure that anything that they can keep to themselves, they do that. And it's my job to go through all their paperwork to go, okay, the government gets this. This is our rocket design. The government, they should have that. But these are comments about that Acme Inc. had with its lawyers. I'm going to put that to the side. Acme Inc. is going to hold on to that. And so I do both of those things at the same time.
Cool. So what would you say is the most exciting part of your job?
The most exciting part of my job has to be when you know you're right. Um, there is very rarely in the law field do you get to go, guys, I'm right. I looked at everything. Believe me, I got it. I got the magic case. You know, this is a case from the state of Illinois, so it's our court. It's from our circuit. It's from our division, and it's from the judge that we're going in front of it. Very rarely, a lot of times you get to go in and go say, hey, you know what? I'm like 85% confident. But when you have that 100% confidence, that is right there. And the only way you get that is through research, is looking and looking. Being a lawyer is more like being a librarian than is like being a TV show. And being able to tell your client, you're going to be okay. Whether it be a contract dispute or be a family issue, people come to you because they're scared and they're nervous and they don't know what to do. And typically speaking, the most you can tell a client is, we're going to do our best. But saying that doesn't always make people feel comfortable. It's a lot, it doesn't happen often, but it's a lot more comforting to a client when I can tell that client, not only am I going to do my best, but you're going to win. And I've only been able to say that twice in 5 years, twice, because it doesn't happen that often. But when it does happen, it's great because you can see the burden being lifted off your client and them relaxing and enjoying whatever it is that brought them to you.
So you talked a few minutes ago about how important it is to return phone calls, and you just made the great comment of being a lawyer in the real world is more like being a librarian than what you see on TV. And so what would you say are the skills that are most important for an attorney to have to be successful in their work?
Okay. Truth be told, being argumentative being someone who likes to be in arguments is not going to be the best skill you need to be a lawyer. It's just not. And I am going to answer your question, but I'm going to make one quick aside and I'll jump right to it. Law school is not designed to teach you the law. People think that law school, you're going to go in there and you're going to learn the Constitution, you're going to learn Buckley v. Vallejo, you're going to learn Dred Scott, and you are going to learn about these famous cases. But that's not what law school is there. Law school is there to teach you how to think like a lawyer. One of the most famous examples that I can think of getting people to learn to think like a lawyer is if I were to ask you, here's a trick you can play in your friends. Ask a friend, do you know what time it is? And it's something that I do with my clients. And if I ask you, do you know what time it is? Most people will say, it's 3:11. And that's when I get to be the smart aleck lawyer and say, I did not ask you what time it is. I asked you, do you know what time it is? Do you know what time it is a yes or no question. And then people go, see, that's why I don't like lawyers. They want to play these word games. But being a lawyer is all about word games. So is there a skill that you can bring with you that helps you to be a lawyer, to be a lawyer to the best of your ability? When it comes to the thinking like a lawyer, not so much. But when it comes to putting your thoughts down on paper, yes, you need to understand the English language. There are, for public record, lawyers who have written briefs and motions that make no sense. They're just very, very poorly written. You need to know how to write. I'm not saying that you need to be the next great American wit. I'm not saying that you need to be able to write for comic book movies or you need to write for Martin Scorsese. But I am saying that you need to be able to put a noun, a verb, an adjective, an adverb together in a way where your judge doesn't have to read it 5 times. Because if they have to read what you're saying multiple times, you're going to lose them and they're going to get mad at you for saying, why are you here if you can't write? So the actual art, the brain work of being a lawyer, there's not a lot that you can do to prepare yourself. But you can prepare yourself when it's time for you to put that down in writing by being a competent writer. You don't have to be the best, but just be competent.
So what would be the one thing in your work that attorneys typically have to do that either people may not know they have to do, it might be research, I might be answering my own question here, or that attorneys do and they may not like doing and people don't know about that?
There are two things that attorneys don't like to do, but they do it anyway because the job requires it. And the first is research. You're right. It's a part. It's just it is what it is. And the other part may seem sort of controversial depending on whom you ask. And I'm going to say it's billable hours.
Mm-hmm.
For those of you all who don't know what billable hours are, lawyers aren't like most professions where you start your workday at 9 a.m., you're done at 5:30, you put in 8 hours worth of work because you have a half hour lunch there, and then you just tell your boss, hey, I worked 8 hours a day, pay me. That's not how lawyers work. We have to assign our work. Well, that's not how the majority of lawyers work. For lawyers who do billable hours, you don't just walk in and start the clock. You walk in, you get ready, you get settled. So you may start your day at 9, but after you're ready to work, it's 9:30. So that first half an hour, you're not paid. Once you start working, you have to account for all of your time to your client. So if you're researching a case for your client, you have to put down, I worked 1.2 hours for my client. And if you spent the rest of the day talking to friends, walking to the printer, waiting on a coffee or whatnot, all you've made that day is 1.2 hours. And it's that tedious keeping track of work. So the average lawyer will have 40 billable hours per week, but will actually end up working 60 to 70 hours per week because you can't bill for everything that you're doing. And that's annoying.
That is a great example, and I certainly, in my experience, have heard many attorneys comment on the frustration of billable hours. So thank you for bringing that up. Just a couple last questions here, but really important ones. So this one, how does your job have a positive impact on the world?
Our job has being a lawyer has a positive impact on the world because once you graduate law school, and to a certain extent, even if you do decide to actually become a lawyer, because again, just because you graduate law school does not mean you are a lawyer. You have a very unique way of looking at the world. And if you decide to take the bar and you pass and you become a lawyer, you still have that mentality that law school gave you. I have friends who work for the national, they protect plants. I don't know, I forget the name of the organization, but it's a national organization of people who care a lot about plants. And there's a Sierra Club, but they work for plants. And that's their passion. And there's nothing wrong with that passion. So they get to show their organization, look at how we are protecting this species of fern, or we just discovered some plants in the Amazon, and now we're going to work to get that plant a protected status. And the same thing is true for animals. Same thing is true for civil rights. The same thing is true for various aspects and facets of not just the American experience. Because once you're a lawyer here in the U.S., there are many cases, whether they be domestic or outside the country, that can come to you just by the fact you are an American lawyer. And so you have the opportunity to settle disputes, to sort of calm the waters, and that is a positive. So the positive is not so much all lawyers reduce tax property, it's all lawyers have the ability to help out almost anywhere. You could take once you become a lawyer, you can go ahead and join the Navy, and you can help them. So you can make a positive aspect even in the military life after becoming after you become a lawyer. You can be helpful at a lot of places. Yeah.
So then, finishing up, what advice would you have for a sixth grader, a 10th grader, or maybe a recent high school graduate or a college student, just in thinking about what they want to do with their life to help them kind of figure that out?
Okay. If you're in sixth grade or 10th grade and you're thinking about being a lawyer, I would say just make sure you understand how to write. read a lot of books, get that keen eye for pattern recognition. Um, you know, if the classic SAT question, if this, then that, you need to sort of get that mentality down. If you are in late high school or you're in college and you're thinking about being a lawyer, I would honestly say the best thing I can tell you is to go and meet with lawyers. Um, we are not reclusive. We are very open. If there's someone in your family or a friend's parent, whether it be their mom or their dad, is a lawyer, talk with them, shadow them for a day. Um, if you really, really, really want to be a lawyer, after doing all that, I wish you the best of luck. But I will honestly say, just make sure that you know what you're getting yourself into. SIU is one of the cheaper law schools in the state. And even then, I still gave up a lot of money to SIU. I have friends, and I'm not going to say the name of the school, who went to law school, and after 3 years, they were in debt $200,000. That amount may seem very abstract to you right now. It's not very abstract when Sallie Mae, Freddie Mac, and the other student loan organizations start taking $1,200, $1,300 every month for your student loan payments. So you have to look at that aspect and also ask yourself, is the lifestyle of a lawyer something that you truly want? Being a lawyer is not what it looks like on Suits. You're not just walking from one pretty room to the next pretty room, throwing a hand down, Harvey does something, and you walk right back out. There's a lot of work that takes place prior to that, and just go with your eyes wide open. If there is anyone that is around you that has went to law school or that is a lawyer, you need to talk to them, and you need to sort of get their perspective. And if you can, do more than one person, because the more you understand what you're getting yourself into, the more informed choice you can make. Because I had a class that started out at 110, and by the end of the first year, it was down to 102. And that means 8 people left. Now, they may have left for various reasons, but I know that at least 2 guys left because this wasn't for them. And I'm thinking, if you're going to law school to be a lawyer, one of the things that you should do is research. You should research the thing you're going to do before you do it. And so I don't want people to leave at the end of their 3rd year going, oh my God, what did I just do with myself? On top of the fact that you've lost time, but you've also lost some money.
Well, that's exactly why we want all students in Illinois to be able to explore the career pathways while they're in high school and even in middle school, and certainly be able to start narrowing down those things that they're interested in doing. And while careers may change and passions and interests and skills will definitely change over the course of one's lifetime, we do want to empower students with that. So today, Arthur, you've been really helpful at giving students this window into the world of an attorney. We really, really appreciate that. For students who are watching, remember, if you or teachers, if you have ideas for occupations or people or questions that you'd like us to ask in our Career Pathways Virtual Trailhead series, please let us know on Twitter. Our Twitter account is at P20 Network. At P20 Network is how you can connect with us on Twitter. And we look forward to bringing you more episodes of Career Pathways Virtual Trailheads moving forward, so we can take advantage of these opportunities to learn about work while we're learning at home. Arthur, thanks so much for joining us today. It was great having you.
Thank you for having me.